Okay, so today we're looking at evaluating arguments. So the objective for today's lesson is giving guiding questions. Participants will be able to evaluate a source. So some community guidelines. So obviously we are happy you are here. If you are late or have technical issues, that's okay. And just please join in join the conversation as you are able to. Mute yourself when you are not talking, but please remember to unmute yourself when you do want to talk. We want to be able to hear everyone. Please complete the pre-session interactive slides and the post-session feedback form. This will help us revise and develop the course content. If you have any questions or technical issues during the session, please send a message in the chat box, or you can send an email to info@hettgroup.com. So to introduce myself, my name is Lisa Vance. I've taught English before, I've taught environmental education, and I've done some teacher training. My co-host is Kathleen, and she has made the slides. So Kathleen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kathleen Griley. I'm an English and Spanish teacher in the US. And yeah, like Lisa said, I helped make the slides for these sessions.
Awesome. Okay, how well can you evaluate an argument? So either turn your camera on and show me, or you can type it in the chat box if you want. So not at all, a little bit more, somewhat, quite well, or extremely well. So not at all, extremely well. Show of fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does anyone want to show me? Anyone turn on their camera? 4. Anyone else? Listening to other words. Okay. Oh, 3. Okay. So 3 of 4. How do you know a news sources are trustworthy? So if you're reading a news source, how do you know that it is trustworthy? You can tell me, you can type in the chat box. So if you're reading news, how do you know it's trustworthy? How do you know it's not lying? Making things up, fake news. Does anyone know? How do you check your news source? Evidence? Good, what kind of evidence? Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to actually show you, see if I can, oops, not that. Okay, so this is one news source. This is called Media Bias Fact Check. So I wanted to kind of briefly show you how they check news sources for how factual they are. So they look at biased wordings or headlines. So do the headlines have lots of emotion? If they do, then they're a bit biased. Do they have factual sourcing? And do they have facts to break back up what they say? Is it one-sided or not? So what kind of stories do they choose? And political affiliation, who are they? What political affiliation are they? So that's when we're talking about news sources. So you have You have resources like this that can check how biased and how factual news sources are. So obviously, we're not just talking about news sources. You can do the same thing when you are analyzing research papers that you find, or any kind of paper or book that you are reading or looking at. So just like you can check the news sources, you can check research and books and all of that, and to question it and to think of what type of arguments that they have. Okay, let's go back. Oh. My computer is being a bit slow. There we go. So what does it mean to evaluate something? Can anyone tell me, either in the chat box or just tell me? If you are evaluating it, what does it mean? Judgment or assessment? Yes, good. So yeah, if you're evaluating something, you're kind of determining its importance or value. So how important is it? Or how much value do you want to place on it? How important is it to you? Also, evaluating can also be around grades and marks and that type of thing. So you can evaluate to find marks, grades. What is an argument? Someone tell me what an argument is. Can you tell me in general if you would like? Argument. Defend, yeah. Yeah, so you could think of like a fight as kind of an argument, but here we're talking about an academic argument, which is different from just like fighting. An academic argument is when you're trying, can you not see? Oh, or is that the answer? So an academic argument is a statement that defends an idea. So that you're trying to back up you want to show facts that lead to a conclusion. So kind of your conclusion, what you are trying to prove is an argument. So use data to prove or disprove an idea, and this is based on facts. So an academic argument is based on facts, and not so much like yelling and screaming. So what does it mean to evaluate an argument? Can anyone tell me? Or type in the chat box. So to evaluate an argument is to think critically to see, oh, there we go. Say some opinion, yeah. So yeah, it's to think critically to see if the argument is valid, if it is a good argument or not, or a strong argument, decide whether or not to trust the author. So you kind of question and think about an academic argument. And is it a strong argument? Is it a valid argument, or is it a weak argument? Like, Should you trust the person who wrote it? Should you trust what that argument is telling you? Okay, so I kind of mentioned a strong argument and a weak argument. What would be a strong argument? So we're thinking like an academic argument. What is a strong argument? So I would say a strong argument. Let's see. True statements, yes. So they're well-reasoned, they're backed up by facts. It's trustworthy, good. So it might be cited in new research. Lots of people cite it because it's a very strong argument. It has lots of facts to back it up. It has very good reasoning to get to the conclusion, like this and this proves this. So that's a strong argument. What is a weak argument? I mean, it's the opposite, but what is a weak argument? So a weak argument is not supported by data or facts. It jumps to conclusions. So it's like this over here. It's not step by step reaching a conclusion. Yeah, there's not complete data to back it up. It probably should not be cited in future research because it is not a good argument to use. So how do you evaluate arguments? Like, how do you decide if it's a strong argument or a weak argument? You can type in the chat box or tell me. Search for facts. Yeah, good. Yeah. So you can read for understanding. So we've looked at active reading techniques. You can use active reading techniques. Think critically. And a big part of this is ask yourself questions. So make sure while you're reading, you're asking yourself questions. Good. Explain by data or results. So what questions can you ask yourself? I'm just going to actually fix this really fast. What questions can you ask yourself? Is Facebook still not working? No. So if you're trying to figure out if something has a strong or weak argument, what could you ask yourself? So we're going to look at 4 questions. Is it emotional? Is the argument emotional? If an argument is emotional, is it strong or weak? If it's overly emotional, like, would it be strong or weak? So I would say if the paper is overly emotional, it is probably a weak argument. So is it factual? So if you're asking, is it factual? If something is factual, is that a strong argument or a weak argument?
Strong argument.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yes.
is it logical? Is that a strong argument or a weak argument?
Weak argument.
If it's logical.
Weak argument.
So logical means that it makes sense. So it would be a strong argument.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Is it one-sided? Does it just kind of only talk about one side of things and not think about the other side? If it's one-sided, is it strong or weak?
Weak.
Yeah, weak,
Yes.
definitely. Okay, so these are just examples. I'll just get you to, you can just type in the chat box actually, because there's only a few people today. So you can type yes or no. So parents today are losing their minds over the stress of taking care of their children in the pandemic. No one cares what they think. No one asks for their suggestions or listens to their advice. Parents are the most important people in their children's lives, and we need to take better care of their mental health. Is this argument emotional? Yes or no? So you can type in the chat box. See if we can get some other. So there's 3 people. One more person. What's your opinion? AA fan, what's your opinion? I don't.
Emotional agreement. Yes. This argument is not emotional.
So this argument is emotional. So it's like no one cares what they think. So if you think of being like, think of someone who's like, no one cares what they think. They're very emotional. They're very like upset and angry. So this is very emotional.
Thank you. Okay.
Is this argument one-sided? Does it only talk about one side? So yes or no?
Yes, yes. This agreement is one-sided.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. It's one-sided. Yes. So it only talks from one side about how stressed out the parents are and how no one cares about what they think. It doesn't talk about anything else. Okay. So is this a strong argument? Yes or no? Yes. Sorry, I shouldn't have said yes. I was repeating what someone said. So no, it is not a strong argument. It is not. So if an argument is one-sided, it is not a strong argument. You want both sides, or at least to talk about both sides a little bit, for it to be a strong argument. What are the criticisms of it, of your argument, so that it presents both sides so the person can see both sides? Is it emotional? If you're doing research, you don't want too much emotion as part of it. You want it to be very like factual and not so emotion based. You want it based on facts. So this would be a weak argument. This is not a strong argument. Parenting stress is a psychological term used to describe the stress that comes, that comes from caring for children. Studies show that parents of young or ill-behaved children are not as happy as childless adults. Although the results vary from country to country and situation to situation, there is no doubt that parenting is stressful work. Okay, is this a logical argument? Oh, let me Thank you. So I would say it's a pretty logical argument. So it starts with the description, it starts with facts, a psychological term for the stress that comes from caring for children. Then it says studies show the parents of young or ill-behaved children are not as happy as childless adults. And then it ends with the kind of the conclusion. There's no doubt that parenting is stressful work. So it kind of has a very logical flow. You have the facts that then lead to the conclusion. Okay. So is this argument backed up by facts? Yes, it is. So yes, it talks about like studies show that parents have, so it's telling you that research has been done, that this is based on facts and information. It would be better maybe if it cited where the studies came from or what research was done, but it's still quite factual in what it says. Okay, so is this a strong argument? Yes or no? Yes, yes it is. It is a strong argument. Okay. In groups, you will read a short paragraph. Use the Pear Deck to respond to the questions. So I'm going to put you all in a room. And then Kathleen and Carrie Bo, sorry if I mispronounced your name, you guys can come back and I will check on the room as well. So I'll put everyone else in a room, so it'll be the three of you. And I'll show you the Pear Deck. Just 1 second. Oops. Okay. So you're going to be reading 2 paragraphs, and I would like you to decide which one is a strong argument and which one is the weak argument. So just a hint, there's one that's strong and one that's weak when you go through and answer the questions. So there you go. There's a link. And if you can explain why is it backed up by science, or why is it factual? Why is it emotional or not? Why is it logical? Why is it a strong or weak argument? Okay. So I will give you 10 minutes to work on it together. So you can, one person can share their screen and work on it together. So someone will have to share their screen. If you're not able to, then you can just open it separately and then discuss about it. That Noizin and AA Than, are you going to join the room? Maybe just join, so just join so then you can discuss about it, even if you can't share your screen. If you have a question, you can also ask me. That no, or AA Than and Damya Ninmon, if you want to join the room, I've invited you to join the room. Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Butterflies are being killed by invasive species. Invasive species move into an area. This paragraph.
Turn on that. Yeah.
I think everyone's back. So we'll go through it now.
Hello, I'm sorry, I'm the first time and I can't answer all.
Oh, that's okay. It's just like a practice and it's just for fun. So one is,
Yeah, I don't know how to make it. Firstly, I don't know how to make it. So yeah, this is my first time. And next time, I try my best.
oh yeah, definitely. And usually we have a few more people, but I think, I don't know, it might be less just because of the holiday. And yeah, so one argument is stronger than the other. Of course, you can always make arguments like stronger. There are different ways, but one is stronger than the other. So I'll read it out loud and then we can discuss. So native plants are being killed by invasive species. Invasive species move into an area and cause harm. Both plants and animals can be invasive species. Generally, humans bring them to new areas when they travel. Because of this, you are not allowed to bring plants across international borders. Humans must be careful not to carry invasive species to new parts of the world. So is this argument backed by science? Yes, it is. It doesn't say research or science directly in it, but native plants are being killed by invasive species is based on science. Invasive species move into an area and cause harm. That's the definition of what an invasive species is. So again, it's science. So the answer is yes.
No.
So yes, it is. It's backed by science. That is science. Oh, I have some chats. Just one second. So yes. Is this argument overly emotional? Does it talk a lot about emotion or is it mostly factual?
No.
No, it is not overly emotional. Okay. Oh, there we go. So is this a strong argument? I would say yes, at least compared to the other one. The next one we'll get to. So like I said, one's stronger and one's weaker. You could do things to make it stronger. You could cite where the information comes from. You can say that it's researched about. You can say according to science. So if there was references and citations in it, it would be even stronger of an argument. But it is still a quite strong argument. The world is going to end. Just look around. We are facing a pandemic that has killed millions of people. There have been enormous wildfires in Australia and across the United States. Huge storms have disrupted daily life across the world. There's nothing we can do about any of this. We're all going to die. All we can do is wait. Is this argument emotional?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's a bit obvious, but yes, it's very emotional. Okay. Is this argument based on facts?
Yes.
I would say no. The world is not going to end. That's not a fact.
Oh.
We are facing, it has killed millions of people. Has it killed millions of people yet? I think maybe. Has it hit 1 million? How many people have died from it? Okay, so it has killed 1 million. So that's one fact. So there's some facts in there, but also there's nothing we can do about it. So that's not a fact. We are all going to die. That's not a fact. All we can do is wait. That's not a fact. That's not true. There's things we can do. We're not all going to die. So those aren't facts. Is this argument logical? Does the information at the beginning lead to the information at the end, the kind of conclusion? We are all going to die. Does the facts back that up? So no, we're not. So even if 1 million people have died, even if there's wildfires, even if there's storms, it does not mean we are all going to die. Those are not logical arguments that lead to that conclusion. So no, it is not a logical argument. So then is this a strong argument? Is this a strong or a weak argument? So no, it is a weak argument. It is not very, so it's too emotional. It's not logical. There's not enough facts. There's like facts that are not true, that are just opinions. We're all going to die. It's not going to happen. That's not a fact. That's not logical. So this is not a strong argument. This is a weak argument. So when you're reading, it's important to be able to differentiate between arguments. This is very simplistic or easy, but it's important to be able to differentiate between strong arguments, which is what you should be using in research, especially in a literature review, and weak arguments, which you should not be using as much. So let's go back here. So question for everyone. When will you evaluate arguments? When might you evaluate arguments? You can type in the chat box if you want. Yeah, so you should think of the facts, yeah. So what times will you evaluate arguments? When can you ask yourself these questions? Yeah, to prepare to write a research paper, good. So writing a research paper, think of where your research is coming from. Think about what you're reading, question it, make sure, because there's a lot of research papers out there that are not very good. So make sure you're questioning it. We can also talk maybe about, I don't know if we have an upcoming one on like sourcing, like exactly who is the author? Is the author like reliable? We kind of talked about that earlier as well. But when we do and read research papers or research, yeah. And also just casually, when you're reading, we talked about the news, when you're reading news, when you're watching news, when you're reading a book, if it's nonfiction. So just think about these questions while you're reading to kind of help critical thinking, like it's kind of a critical thinking skill, I would say. So how well can you evaluate arguments? Not at all, a little bit more, somewhat, quite well, or extremely well. So you can either show me, so not at all the way to extremely well, or you can chat, or you can type in the chat box. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh. Okay. So 3, 3. Okay. Okay, so we're going to end there. So it's just a short little class. I will send out a course feedback form and an invitation to join the Google Classroom. We put all of the classes and all of the material in the Google Classroom. So next week, we're going to look at logical fallacies if you want to join. So we will have the class in English at 7 p.m. So this time. And we will have the same class, but spoken in Burmese at 9 a.m. So in Burmese at 9 a.m., in English at 7 p.m. But it's the same class both times. But just to help people if they can't understand in English. And I will put the feedback form in the chat box. Okay, there you go. Okay, and the syllabus can be found in the Google Classroom. So I'll email out the link to the Google Classroom. And if you join, you can see the syllabus in there. And here are the resources from the class today. Okay, so thank you very much and bye-bye. I'll stay a couple minutes to answer any questions. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello. I'm fine.
Hello.
I will try my best. Yeah. Long time no see. Happy to see you.
Nice to see you as well again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Yeah, no.
Thank you, Josh. See you next
Yeah,
week.
see you.
See you next week.
See you.
So, oh. Okay. Oh, I'll stop the recording.